What's up, folks? How are y'all? Yep, it's us again.
Us it.
Us.
Yes.
We're the Williams.
Yes.
And we're back again with another edition. See how we're getting situated and stuff? With another edition of Love Unscripted. Once again, we'd like to thank you for allowing us in your home, in your day, your afternoon, whatever time of day you're taking out to view our perspectives on a covenant marriage and different things that happen in a marriage.
Yeah, and things that we feel have worked for us, or maybe even things that have not worked for us.
And this is my beautiful wife, Ramona.
Hello.
My name is Wilbert. And today's topic is marriage without humility is a struggle. Oh boy. Yeah, you might ask, okay, so what's your perspective on that? Well, my perspective is this. In a marriage, there's two that have become one. However, if the two aren't willing to bend, one of you is gonna break. Because if you want to stay rigid in a marriage, and it says, there's a saying that says a rigid mind is easily broken. And if one of you definitely stays rigid, or both of you stay rigid, somebody's going to break and break away. This is so true.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is be humble, be understanding of your spouse, work together, love together, live together, enjoy together, laugh together. Humility is so key. I have this thought of how humility works. Humility says you can take it and you will rebound without a scratch.
What do you mean by you can take it? What is it?
So what I mean by it is this. If something crosses you the wrong way, and something's said to you the wrong way in your marriage, because that does happen in communication.
Yeah.
You hear our dryer singing in the background. If something takes place that is uncomfortable for you, and it hits you, it doesn't scar you. It doesn't show any kind of residue of what is taking place. Because you're humble and you know how to forgive, you know how to let go, you know how to communicate, you know how to go back, enjoy, and love. That's humility. And that's not allowing yourself to be broken by things that really don't mount to hill of beans. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, so when you're talking about being humble, because that's what humility is. Just being humble in a situation. Sometimes it's not a thing that you might want to do.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because it's easy to say, let's be humble. That's the great way to be.
Yeah.
Being humble takes away the need to be so rigid, and like my husband was saying, to be broken. And I think the broken part comes from when it's a constant.
Yes.
When it's constant rigidity.
Wow.
That's a word. Is that a word?
It is now.
It is now. I'm pretty sure it's a word. But, being humble, it's not always as if, from my experience, it's something that you're going to want to do all the time.
That's a good point.
Sometimes it's going to require you to pull from within yourself to be humble in a situation. And I think I'm speaking of in this perspective from both parties, right? Because it does take not just one person to say, okay, you know what, I am going to be humble in this, but I think it takes both. And
Absolutely.
so whatever the situation is, just if you think about it, being able to take yourself back for a second and just say, okay, let me practice being humble in this situation
Mm-hmm.
and see what comes out of it. And you might not always win at it.
That's right. That's a good point. Humility makes you flexible.
Ooh,
It,
yeah.
You know, you're able to bend and not break.
Right.
You're able to basically accommodate, you know, a situation or accommodate your spouse in a way to where it doesn't make you feel like you're being run over.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, so whenever that storm comes, it's like I'll give you an example. You ever see a tree in a storm, like let's say a palm tree, and they just bend and they bend and they bend and they bend till they almost touch the ground, and then when the sun comes out, they straighten right back up and they keep going.
Yeah.
That's to me that gives longevity to a marriage, but it takes two.
Yeah.
It takes the both of you to be able to bend and not break, to be able to be humble and be able to accommodate. You know, and it doesn't always have to be your way in the marriage.
And I would wonder, have you ever had a conversation in your marriage about being humble or the need?
Oh wow, the need to be humble.
Right, the need to be humble in a marriage, because like the title says, marriage without humility
is a struggle.
Is a struggle,
yeah.
Right? And so maybe if there are struggles in your marriage, maybe what it is lacking is humility, and maybe it could be that you don't even know that that's something that would be beneficial to your marriage, right?
Yes.
So if you're watching this video and say, man, you know, we do struggle in certain areas, especially those areas that require us to be humble, because I think the reality is not every area is going to require you to be humble, because certain areas are maybe just are easy for you. You're able to navigate those areas really well.
That's
but
good.
I think those difficult areas are areas where, okay, look, if we don't bring some humility into this thing, we're going to continue to struggle. So maybe now hearing this video, maybe you can have that conversation with your spouse and say, hey, you know, let's look at if the area that we're struggling in, do we need to, you know, practice some humility with each other? And I think a word that could go along with that is grace as well. You know, a little humility and a little grace.
Yeah. You know, ask yourself, what are areas in your home, in your marriage, in your covenant marriage that you struggle with? Do you struggle with communication? Do you struggle in the bedroom? Do you struggle in the kitchen? Do you struggle with who does what in the home?
Yeah.
Who's responsible for what in the home?
Yeah.
Do you struggle with those areas? Ask yourself, what areas do you struggle with? And then apply humility. And I would bet that those areas would become areas without struggle.
Right.
I'll bet that those areas, once you overcome one, you'll know that you can overcome the other, and you'll know that you can overcome the other, and whatever it may be, because you have applied humility. Because you don't always have to be rigid. You don't always have to be headstrong. You don't always have to be that person that has the last word.
Ooh, but did you just look at me for a reason?
I looked on the camera.
Oh, you looked on me? Okay, no.
Well, you know, actually my reaction was passing the ball now.
Okay, but yeah, you said headstrong, and I love that. Even next to the idea of being rigid, because really sometimes what it is, let's just call a thing a thing.
Yeah.
Being rigid or just being headstrong. So headstrong that you're not willing to let into anything, and it causes a struggle. But if you put the need to be headstrong up against humility and insert that, when you would insert, okay, this is my thought, this is my opinion, this is how I'm going to deal with this, you know, he's come to me this way, or she's come at me this way, this is how I'm going to be, and say, you know what, I'm just going to insert some humility. I think that would be a great opportunity to, and you know what? Guess what? I think your spouse deserves it. I think your spouse deserves you practicing some humility, right?
Right.
And if you don't think they deserve it, then figure out a way to say, you know what? Even if they don't deserve it, I'm going to give it to them anyway.
Yes. You know, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, if you were going into the kitchen, you're getting something from the kitchen, and you know your spouse is headed that way, and you wanted something from the kitchen, and you say, "Hey, babe, could you bring me this?" And then you know the rigid way says, "Come get it yourself."
Ooh.
The humble way says, "Sure, babe,
Sure.
I'll come get it. I'll get it for you." Is
there
there anything else that you would like for me to get?
Yeah.
And that's not out of a smart aleck tone. That's out of a genuine tone of humility and love for your spouse.
Yeah.
And so, you know, hey, did you, like for instance, you might say, did you check the mail on your way in? Instead of you saying, oh no, babe, I forgot. And you might say, that's humility right there. But then you say, well, did you check the mail on the way in? You see that? Tone, talk, touch. You see that octave go up? That's rigid. That's how dare you ask me.
I'm about to come home and I'm about to cook. Or, look, I need to go mow the lawn. All I'm thinking about is trying to get that done before the sun goes down, or get that done before X, Y, and Z has to happen. But you know what? I didn't think about it. I'll go do that right now.
Oh, that was beautiful, babe.
Is that beautiful?
That was a great example of humility.
Mm-hmm.
Because why develop a argument or a debate or a struggle over something that's really nothing?
Over something that's nothing.
Yes. And so another example of what humility does, it takes those, if you practice it enough, it takes those rough edges off of you to where you guys can now communicate and be better at being one, because you're no longer two. But you're one. You're one. You know, it's like taking pieces of puzzles that you've cut up all kinds of ways, and you try to fit them together. They just won't fit. But if you give them over time, if you smooth out those rough edges and practice humility, they'll fit every time. They'll fit every time.
And you know, as you were talking, I was thinking about getting rid of rough edges and then smoothing them out, rounding them out. You know, rough edges hurt.
They do.
Right? They hurt. But when you smooth them out, if you happen to bump into something that's been smooth, I guarantee you, even if you bump into it like, ow, it's not going to hurt you the way something that is and has a rough or a jagged edge.
That's
so
beautiful.
Why not smooth out those rough edges in your marriage?
Yeah, right. In yourself, in your marriage. Yes. Smooth them out. You know, allow God to come in and change your perspective. You know, ask yourself, you know, what would God do in this moment? How would he look at you? How would he communicate, you know, with your spouse? How would he have your spouse communicate with you? I assure you that those things that you deemed, you know, I'm gonna stand my ground on this, and things that you deemed that I'm not gonna do this because I don't want to. You know what he would probably say? Why not?
Why not? Right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then if you can answer why, you're probably going to answer the wrong answer. You're probably going to give the wrong answer. I hope that makes sense, because humility in it, you will win every time.
Yeah.
Y'all will win every time. Y'all will benefit every time. Y'all will grow every time. You will prune yourself. If y'all who's listening understand what pruning means, it means taking off the dead stuff off of you that does not do you any good in supplying life to your marriage.
You know, let's say you miss an opportunity to practice humility the first time. Because typically what happens, you know, when someone's being headstrong and it causes friction in the marriage, then it typically it's prolonged. It'll go longer than that moment,
It
right?
will.
It will go longer than the
Oh my
moment. It'll
gosh.
go, into the evening, sometimes into the morning, into how you interact with each other. But guess what? Cut that thing off. So I missed my first opportunity to show humility, which will probably
Come on,
not
man.
have even caused the friction in the first place. And so now there's friction, right? You can always redeem yourself. Come back around from another angle with some humility. Babe, I could have reacted to that in a different way. What I meant to say,
That's good.
I do apologize, because sometimes humility will require you to apologize. I do apologize for how I reacted or what I said, or if I disappointed you, if I disrespected you, whatever it is, and come back in with some humility. I promise you, that edge that was rough, that may be your fault because you didn't practice humility, it could soften up, and it'll end that area of friction and rolling your eyes at the other person, or silence, or whatever it is, or not being your normal soft, sweet, sensuous, I think I meant to say sensitive, but sensuous works too.
Love it.
Self to your spouse. So don't think like, man, I'll get it next time. No. If you think about it and you had an opportunity but you missed it, get yourself together and come back in the room, or come back in the space, or get on the phone and just let them have it with humility.
Yeah.
Give it to them with humility.
Oh my gosh, I love the fact that the way she put that perspective, coming back around. That's for husbands and wives, coming back around and coming, addressing that statement or that moment in a whole different perspective, with love, with humility, with gentleness, with that compassion, to make your spouse feel welcome in the marriage, in the covenant,
in that space take up together, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Welcome into that space. We belong together. This is our space. It's not yours. It's not mine. It's not his. It's not hers. It's ours.
Because we know what it feels like when you don't feel welcome in your space that, for your spouse.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, I'm here, but I can tell,
Right.
Maybe he doesn't necessarily want me here, or she doesn't want me here. So yeah, I think that's super, super important.
Yeah, and we're not telling you guys nothing that we haven't put to practice.
Yes. Oh, okay, keep going. I'm gonna keep my thought. Okay, go.
Yeah, so these are things that we have encountered, and we've learned. This is what it took for us to get beyond those moments.
Yeah.
And how we have bettered ourselves, and how we've increased the love that we have for each other, the understanding we have for each other, the communication that we have with each other. How it has just broken down so many barriers, so many ways about our own individual selves that we brought into the marriage, that now we have given that space over.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Over to our spouse, and welcome them in.
Yeah, that's so good. I had to sit up and just look at his hand himself for a second, because it is so true. We're telling you this because we know it has worked for us.
Yeah.
For us, and it's the practice of it. That's why I was so willing to say, hey, come back around if you missed it that last time, because you know how they say practice makes perfect. I'm not a believer in practice makes perfect. I do believe practice makes better.
It does.
And so the more you practice it with your spouse, because this is life. You will have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to actually be humble, show respect, show honor, or you'll have opportunity for the opposite. Anything was the opposite. But why not? Because like we said, I believe your spouse deserves it. Give into the practice of having humility in your marriage so some of those struggles can be fewer. And
That's beautiful.
and notice I didn't say so they'll go away. I said so they will be fewer, because this is what I do know and I believe, that those moments of struggle or friction are opportunities for you to get better, for you to learn different things about each other, for you to say, hey man, okay, I noticed this about my husband. This is how I'm going to interact with him in the future when it comes to X, Y, and Z. Or learning this about my husband has deepened my understanding and my love for him, you know, or I've learned this about him and now I'm going to do this to show honor to him when these moments happen again. And so the practice. I think we've always said that we've had a good, strong marriage, right? But as you can tell from what we're telling you now, we're human, and so we have conversations, we have dialogues about things that either didn't sit with us the right way or cause friction in our relationship. But those are the moments that allowed us to learn that you need humility. And the change in us individually and each other, and how those things have improved us as the Williamses.
Beautiful. The Williamses.
Yes, inside joke.
I think that kind of wraps it up, babe.
I think so.
We're speaking to the Lord.
Yes, I speak humility. May your marriage be covered with humility.
Yes.
Individually and together.
Woo! Come on.
Humility.
Yep. Agreed.
Yes.
Ditto.
Ditto.
Way up yonder, ditto.
Got my country cowboy husband. Yes.
So we say, hope to you all and blessings to you all.
Yes.
You're no longer two,
but
you are one. You are one.
All right.
I love you, babe.
All right, y'all. Until next time.
Peace to the world.
Hurry up and cut this camera off.
Bye guys.